Andy, welcome back to the show. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Seth, I'm glad to be with you.
Thank you, sir. There's so much going on and so much to do. Although you wouldn't know it if you tune into certain cable channels, it's really amazing. Two different countries are being covered, it seems like. But let me start with, let me give them their due and start with the issue you've just been fantastic on, which has been pushing and urging the reopening of our economy, the reopening of our country. And the president's efforts there, you've been working with him on that. How does it stand right now, and are you surprised by so much resistance?
Well, let's start with the last part first.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been surprised by the resistance to it. Some people are resisting very strongly. And quite frankly, when you ponder it a little bit, it's not surprising. You have the left-wing media has been, from the outset, and even some of our friends in the media have been hyped this thing up so it's ginned up a real fear, a real panic, this disquiet in the community and in our state and in the country. And because there's been that kind of agitation from the left, and then you throw in these kind of what I would call petty tyrants, state, some governors and some mayors, etc., that have been very, very abusive of what power they think they have, and they've used this to arrogate power to themselves and make people more dependent upon the state, and it's kind of a vicious circle there. And then you throw in this thing that has just driven me crazy, which is Dr. Fauci, where every time President Trump wants to come out and he wants to be very optimistic because that's his want. I mean, he really believes in the American people. If you ever talk to him one-on-one, he's going to tell you how much he loves America. Sure. The American dream is real, and he loves the American people. He has absolute confidence in them. And every time he starts talking about that, he's got Fauci. Initially, Fauci saying 2 million people would die. Well, that if you're the president, that really is going to, cause you to think a little bit. And then you get Fauci coming on yesterday saying, well, we probably shouldn't even open up schools. Yeah. And his testimony yesterday was very undermining, and the way he did it was undermining because the day before he leaked his statement to the New York Times so that they could be running it and priming the pump for the media. So the whole story yesterday all over the media was that he said, people could unnecessarily die if you open up early. And the bottom line is that kind of fear has caused the resistance to opening. But in Arizona, I haven't sensed it nearly as much as I have from other places. When I talk to people in Arizona, I talk every day to constituents all over the state. They tell me there's an energy. They want to get out. Oh yeah. They want to be free, and they want to get going. And I'm grateful. It sounds like we're going to be all opened up by the end of this week, and so I'm grateful for that. Yeah, the moves have been in all the right directions, as has, you're right, been the tempo and the temperature of it. I have 4 friends from Santa Monica, 2 who are moving here this month. 2 have already done it because they can't take it there anymore, and they've seen what's been going on here. And heck, maybe we'll even have Tesla here as a headquarters at some point before too long. But you're right. There is this Fauci Greek chorus. And yet Rand Paul can ask him, can say, look, you're not really the be-all and end-all to all this. You do understand that. And Fauci says, no, I just opine on medical matters. That's not true. It's not true. He doesn't. He opines on everything else, too. Yeah, and that's what I found so disingenuous about what he said. He may really, in his mind, really believe that he's only talking about a very narrow view of things. But the problem is, because he's had this center stage, and he's been opining on this, everything he says impacts everything you and I and your listeners and everybody in this country does. Because when he comes out and says, well, we could have 2 million people die. Well, guess what? He's built it on a faulty model, of course. But that's going to generate fear in the country. It's also going to change policy. He should know that. He's a lifetime bureaucrat, a medical bureaucrat. He should know that when he says stuff, and he does know this, quite frankly. He knows it. He does. It affects the policies, of course, that are going to be generated. Yes. that's just bogus for him to say, well, I'm just a...
You said it causes people, when he speaks, it causes people to want to keep things shut, and there's no doubt truth in that. But I also think it gives fuel to this crisis industrial complex, this panic-inducing industry that needs us to be on the edge of destruction. Don't you think? It gives them energy and fuel, too. Here in Arizona, on the state capitol yesterday, some group put 20 body bags in front of the state legislature as a protest to our opening up. Very macabre. And I just wondered where they were in 2017, Andy, because we lost twice as many people to the flu back then. You lived in Arizona. I lived in Arizona. I don't remember a story about it. There were no body bags at the state legislature.
There were no body bags. There was nothing going on. And if this is the new norm, then we will never be a free country.
That's right.
And so it can't stand. It just can't stand. And I'm so pleased with the people of Arizona who basically said, we've got to open up. We've got to get going. We've got to be ready to go. And
well, the costs, we're now beginning to see more and more mainstream media talking. Now, that's a fair way to put it. Once in a while, they're giving credence to the costs that you and I and a few others, not many more than a few, but a few others, have been talking about since March, which is the costs of what we're doing. There's a report out of the United Nations yesterday, no doubt you're aware or saw it, that over 100 million people worldwide will be at the end of this year at risk of death from starvation. 30 million children. This starvation in poor countries was something we wiped out in the 80s. Remember all those Biafra campaigns in the 70s? We had wiped that out because of the economic engine of America. We're now going to put 30 million children around the world at risk of starvation death? Are you kidding me? There's not enough Sally Struthers to cover that sort of thing. I do not mean that silly. I do not mean that in any way tongue-in-cheek. I am serious. How are we going to deal with that? I have no idea.
Well, and no one really has an idea. What they've done, when I say these policymakers, these people that have chosen to shut down all of the economically sophisticated nations in the world, those who created and produced more than they consumed, who could redistribute some of that elsewhere. Those who were providing technological support as well to these other nations who really, they're places where they don't have water, and so we have people going to drill water for them and whatnot. That largesse has been consumed and now encumbered by the debt of nations throughout the world, and this is just absolutely obscene. And so people, what I keep trying to remind people is it isn't just saying, well, the economic cost, and so people say, "Oh, you're trading money for lives." No, I said, we know.
I'm trading lives for lives is what I'm doing. I'm talking about
trading lives.
Right.
I'm not even trading lives.
It's
for
not
lives.
Trading.
What
right.
I'm asking you is to respect every life.
Right.
And if you're going to deny people their freedom and move to an authoritarian state, you will get the same results every authoritarian state gets, and that's shortages and scarcity. Shortages and scarcity are poverty. They lead to public health crises.
You bet. And you now have the Daily Mail reporting in America. You have other reporters in America now using a number of between 70 and 130,000 deaths here, not from coronavirus, but from the effects of the lockdowns and the isolation and the mental health problems that will come from it. We will have, perhaps more than the number of COVID deaths from some very serious physicians' models.
And Seth, what you're saying too is these are studies from reputable medical and scientific professionals. These are people coming out who do this type of research, and they are telling you what this is going to look like. And quite frankly, this could be preventable.
Well, that's the thing.
Swedish model.
That's exactly right. It was like FDR. Churchill wrote in his memoirs on the war, World War II, conversation he had with FDR. FDR said, "What should we call this war?" Churchill said, the avoidable war, because this could have been avoided. We could have avoided this.
Yes.
Andy
That's
Biggs,
exactly.
I'm so glad you are on the wall. I'm so glad you are on the march on this. Keep going and keep the updates coming with us. We love having you here. We love having you in Arizona. We love having you in Washington. We love having you on this show.
Thanks, Seth. It's great to be with you. Keep fighting, man.